Good evening, everybody. Still getting things set up. The- Gonna add a little bit of music now that I figured out how to add music to the channel and not have it show up in the VODs or in the YouTube uploads. I had uploaded Sunday night stream to YouTube, but it didn't block out the music. Hey there, Edge the Sketch. So when I uploaded it to YouTube, immediately with the algorithm, it heard the music and it striked it as a copyright. Everything's fine. I took the video down. It's not a big deal. There was no instruction in that video. It was just temperature blanket. So it's not that big of a deal. But the past couple days, if you're in the Discord, if you've noticed like alerts that I was going live the past couple days, I was just doing tests, and I think I haven't figured out how to. Hey, Choo Choo, how are you? I think I figured out how to have the audio, the music, not play on the VODs, or it's the same thing as the YouTube upload. I'm doing all right. So I figured that I had to play around with some settings and everything. So the thing that will go, the audio that will go to the VOD, not that you all need to know this, but a little behind the scenes, the audio that will go to the VOD and to the YouTube will be my actual audio that you're hearing me speak now, and any of the chat commands, like if you type the exclamation point, any of our fun little audio commands, they should be heard on the VODs, but not the instrumental music you hear now. So I figured all that all out. And then today, I go to test it, and right now I'm using Soundtrack by Twitch. It's music service for Twitch specifically. And when I clicked on the thing, it said, as of starting July 17th, they're shutting down Soundtrack for Twitch. And I'm like, great. So I have other alternatives that I'm looking into for music to use that are stream friendly. So get this all figured out, and then they're taking that service away. Something about they're not they're shutting it down because there's not a lot of use. I guess a lot of Twitch streamers are not using that service. But it is what it is. Not that big of a deal. So that's a little behind the scenes. Let me click on this. Just need copyright free music. You can Google. Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. There's a couple services that are free. I want something that's not going to cost me anything. There's a couple I've looked into. There's one that I think will work. Problem is, I want more chill / classical type music. I don't want anything upbeat. I don't want hip hop. I don't want metal. I don't want rock. All of that. And trying to find ones that'll work for that. I'm still in the research phase for it, but we got about a month. So. But all the technical stuff is done. I just got to find the thing that's going to play it. And okay, the song that's playing now is very quiet, so let's switch to another one. I know what you mean. I love big band music. Big band's cool. I just want something. Okay, Choo Choo, that's fine. You have a good one. Oh, thank you. I'll try to have a good stream. But yeah, I want something that's a little more laid back and chill. Okay. So let's click on. We are gonna get right into our stitches tonight. We're doing the puff stitch and the picot stitch. We're coming to the home stretch of all of our basic crochet stitches that you'll find incorporated in a lot of patterns. So I'm gonna zoom in. I've got a row of single crochet, 10 single crochet. Trying to get this playing with my lighting. I think the light is a little too close to my work. I might have to end up putting my lamp the way it used to be. So I just have a row of 10 single crochet stitches. And what I'm going to end up doing is I will do a row of bobbles. I'll do a row of puffs, and then we will do the actual popcorn stitch. So you can see the difference between the three. Because a lot of people, even I, would get confused. What are the difference between all of them? So I'm going to chain up, let's see, I'm going to chain up. I'm going to chain up 3 and turn. And I'm going to do a row of puff stitches first. And we did the other night puff stitches. And again, to recap, puff is you're going to yarn over, insert the hook, bring up the loop, yarn over, insert the hook, bring up the loop. You do this a number of times. So I've done it twice. I will do it 3 times, and I'll do it a 4th time. And then after you do all of that, you yarn over and bring that strand. And I didn't, yeah, there we go. Through all of them, and then chain 1 to lock it. That's a puff. So I'm just going to do a row of puff stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, you could do this whatever multiple you want. And we had did this on Saturday. We did puffs, bobbles and puffs. I got to do a chain to lock it. I should have prepped this ahead of time so we had a sample, but it won't take me long to do this. I think I did one of them a little bit thinner, but that's okay. There. Sometimes the strand gets a little snagged in your loop, so it's always good to pull up a little higher when you do it so there's room. 2, 3, and the 4th one. I got 2 more to do. Last one. Fourth. It's curling like this because I am a tight crocheter, but with locking and when I add more rows, it will straighten out a little more. So that's our puff stitch. Now I'm going to do a row of bobble stitches. And bobble stitches are basically, oh, wait a minute. Just make sure I'm going in the right stitch. Let me just double check something. Yeah. There are a number of double crochets. You start a double crochet, and all in the same stitch, you do the first yarn over. So I'm going to do 3 on these. So that's 3 double crochets that have been started. And then you're going to yarn over and pull through. So they're going to have starting, the tops all meet in the same spot, and the bottoms all meet in the same spot. And again, we did this on Saturday. 1, 2, and 3. Third for that. Third. And again, bobbles can be wider or narrower. I haven't I'm just doing 3 wide for these. Got 2 more bobbles to make. Last one. Whoops. Okay. My bobble just came undone. Do you hate it when your bobble comes undone? Okay. I'm going to chain up 3 for my next row to get it all ready. So, and again, my stitches are, I'm a tight crocheter, so they're going to curve. So ignore that. But the first row are puffs, and you could probably see, even on camera, they've got some thickness to it. So a puff are going to be thicker up and down for height-wise of your fabric. Your bobbles are going to be wider left and right. Now with a popcorn, we've chained 3. We're going to turn our work, and in our first stitch, we're going to do 5 double crochets, kind of like a fan. Actually, just like a fan. So you're going to complete 5, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets. So you make a fan, but you're going to pull your loop up and take your hook out. But keep your loop up tall, and you go back to your 5th stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you insert the hook into your 5th stitch. Okay? And then you're going to take your loop and put it on your hook and cinch it up. And it'll help if you put your finger in that fan to form this U shape. And you're going to take that loop, the loop from your 5th double crochet, and you're going to pull that loop through the stitch that you put the hook in through first. You're going to pull it through and then chain 1. That's a popcorn. So now we're going to do the same thing in the next stitch. You're going to do basically a fan, or a shell if you want to call it a shell. It's 3, 4, and 5. Pull the loop up large, take it out, count back to your very first double crochet you used, that you did. So you got 1, you can count your V's, and again, it's not showing up on camera because the glare of my lighting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert it back into the very first double crochet you did in that group. Put that loop on your hook, pull a little bit, get your tension the way that you normally have. I put my middle finger in there to form it, and then I bring that loop, again, the loop that was on our last double crochet in our fan, take that loop back through the stitch, and then chain 1 to lock it. Popcorns have a right and a wrong side, so when we get to the end of this row and we turn, I'll show you what the back looks like. Oops, I gotta actually do double crochets. For a second there, I was doing bobbles. 3, 4, 5. So we put a fan in, pull it up. Hey there, Clean Miko. So you've put a fan in your stitch. You've made your loop really large. Take your hook out. You count back to your first stitch. So we did 5. So we're going to count the V's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's the very first one we did. Put our hook back into that first double crochet of that fan. Take the loop and put the loop on the hook. Cinch it up a little. I put my middle finger behind the stitch to kind of fill out the stitch, and then bring that loop through the stitch, chain 1 to lock it. Whoops. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey there, Grammy. So again, we put a fan in our stitch. So a 5 double crochet fan. Again, you can do different size popcorns. Actually, you could do 3 stitches. Really wouldn't really show much, but you could do 5, 6, 7. Commonly, you do 5. So you do 5 double crochets, full double crochets in the same stitch, which is a fan. Take your hook out, make sure your loop's large. Put it back into the first double crochet of that fan. Put the loop back on the hook. Cinch it up. Put your finger in behind to form the popcorn and bring the loop through the stitch. Whoops. I'm going to lose it there. Bring it through and then chain 1 to lock it. 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got our fan. Pull the loop tall. Take your hook out. Put your hook into the very first stitch of the fan. And it's from front to back. Put the loop back on the hook. Cinch up a little. Form the popcorn with your finger from the back side. Pull that loop through your stitch and chain 1 to lock. Oh, I didn't even go in the right stitch there. Just for the heck of it. So I did 5 popcorns, and each of them have 5 double crochets. This next one, I'm going to be daring, and I'm going to do 7. So I'm going to make a bigger popcorn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Pull the loop up, take it out. You go back to the very first one. In this case, if you were going to count, you would count 7 because that's how many you did. You just go back to the very first one, put the loop on, cinch up a little bit, readjust my tension, form the popcorn, bring it through, pull it tight, and chain 1. That's a bigger popcorn. So the rest of this row, I'll do the bigger ones. I'll do 7. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we made a fan of 7 double crochets. Try to move it up closer to the camera so you can see. Take my hook out, but keep the loop really large. Go back into the very first stitch of that fan, insert the hook, and then put the loop on the hook, cinch it up, form the popcorn, pull it through, chain 1 to lock. Three, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Form our popcorn again. Go to the very first one, put the loop on, cinch it up, chain to lock. Again, ignore the tension here with being a tight crocheter. And this was just a quick sample. 2, 5, 6, and 7. Take out my loop, take out my hook out of my loop, put it into the first one, grab the loop again, tighten it up, form the popcorn, bring it through, and chain 1 to lock. And I got one last one of this row. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Form the last one. Put the loop back on the hook. Cinch up, bring it through, chain 1 to lock. So we've got a row of puff stitches, and I added a lot of popcorns there, so it will. My stitch count isn't perfect, plus the tension, but for demonstration purposes, it'll work. So we got a row of puff stitches. Now, puff stitches are right down here at the bottom, and the strands of the stitches are all parallel to each other, and they add some thickness, and they look the same on the front and back. Bobbles are wider, left and right. They're the same front and back. Popcorns are the big daddy of them. They're this mound of stitches. And again, all of them have a starting and the bottom point all is at the same point of the stitch. The bottoms of the stitches are the same. And when you're finished, the tops are at the same. And then but the back of the popcorn are flat. They're actually hollow. You can actually put your finger in there because when we're forming them, they form a little cup. So popcorns are not reversible. Bobbles and puffs are. But it adds a lot of texture to your work. We're going to have an ad here in a second. When we come back from the ad, we'll do some more popcorns. Um, check something. Okay. So I will be back after this ad. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Again, thank you for sitting through that ad. So I came to the end of the row. I chained 3 to unturned. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a row of double crochets because, like I said, the popcorn have a right and a wrong side. The big textured side is the right side. The cupped concave side is the back side. So this row will be just a filler row. And I'll show you where the top of the stitch is of the popcorn. It's right here. This is the space between the popcorns. And this is the chain one you did when you closed and secured the popcorn. So you're actually going to go into that chain, the actual chain. So I'm just going to do a row of double crochets all the way across into the tops of the popcorns. Popcorns are great if you want, yes, if you want texture, but it is a way of, you can make patterns with it. I'm not going to show a specific popcorn pattern tonight, but what you can do is you can plan it out on grid paper or on a website like Stitch Fiddle, where you're planning your stitches, not specific colors. You can plan actual stitches, and let's say everything is double crochet, but if you want, you can do every other one to be a popcorn. You can do one row. Let's say you've got 9 stitches across. This is an example. You get 9 stitches across. The first 4 and the last 4 of one row will be double crochets. The middle one's a popcorn. The next row, you go 3 double crochets, a popcorn, and then however many double crochets, so you can form like a diamond pattern or whatever pattern. You can also form letters and numbers with it. You've seen people make a Mickey head and popcorn stitch with the rest being plain doubles. Yes. Yep, you could do all different patterns. Like I said, you can do letters and numbers. They will just be textured. Yep. So I came to the end of the row of my doubles, and I'm going to chain 3, because we're doing doubles. Popcorns are, most popcorns, I guess you could do popcorns in triples. Could be. And it's on your, oh, the Mickey head, the Mickey head's definitely on your bucket list. Okay. So, since I did 5 smaller popcorns and 5 bigger popcorns, my rows is much wider, so that will affect it. So keep that in mind. If you're going to do something like that, if you're going to make a specific pattern, like a graph, and so it's kind of like an outline or whatever, I would follow a pattern. I'm not an expert in doing that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to alternate, and I'm going to do a normal size popcorn where each popcorn is consisted of 5 double crochets. We're not going to do the jumbo ones. We'll do the traditional ones. But I'm going to alternate. Every other one is going to be a popcorn. So I'm going to start with a double crochet there. So that's our first one's a double crochet. The next one will be a popcorn. So I'm going to do 5 double crochets. Five. Pull that out. Now I can't go to the very first one because the very first one was a double crochet on its own. So I have to go to the first one of the fan and form it. And chain 1, form. So we have 2 stitches there. We have a double crochet and we have a popcorn. Now our next one will be a double crochet. And now in the next stitch, we'll do a popcorn. They look more complicated than they are. In my opinion, forming a popcorn is easier than a puff or a bobble, because a puff, you're yarning ever go through, pull it up, and you do it multiple times, and then you have to pull through a whole bunch all at once. So, and again, if you don't have enough space in there, it can snag. Bobbles are less complicated because you're only doing a number of double crochets. You're only doing going halfway, do each stitch halfway, and then once you get the number you want, then you pull through all of them. So they're not as bad. This popcorns are real easy because you're doing individual double crochets in a fan, and then just doing, basically pulling that loop through there is a slip stitch. pulling the loop through the other stitch, that's a slip stitch. So it's a combination of a fan and a slip stitch and then a chain. That's all that a popcorn is. So they might have a more impressive look to them, but I think they're easier to make. And number 5. And again, not going to do the very first one we did because that was a standalone, because we're doing double crochet popcorn, double crochet popcorn. We're going to alternate. And this is how you would do a pattern if you're going to have whatever, if you're going to do a word or a heart or a Mickey Mouse head or whatever your design is, you would have a filler stitch in between for some contrast to form that shape. So there was our standalone double crochet. And again, I just came up with this, literally came up with this row here while we were in the ad break. I didn't have this planned. I mean, I had the popcorn planned for a month, but coming up with this pattern for this row, I just came up with it on the fly. Whoops, I did 2 double crochets together. We don't want that. We want full double crochets and forming a fan. And then go back into the first one of the fan, put the loop on the hook, slip stitch it, because that's what you're doing. You're slipping that loop through your first stitch, tighten it up a little, and chain 1 to lock. My next stitch is our regular double, and then our last stitch will be a popcorn. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can get real creative with the popcorns. You can play around with different types of yarns and textures. This is, what I'm using here is basic 100% cotton yarn. Mainly, like I said, like I had told you before, it's because it'll show the stitch definition a little bit easier on camera, but it does have a texture itself. Well, the texture of the yarn combined with the texture of the popcorn stitch, this is a highly textured piece of fabric. So the previous row of popcorns, I did 10 of them. That was a little too much. You can do them. Again, if I did all of them the same size popcorns, it might work out a little better. But with that row that I just did, it's every other one. And you can kind of see how you have spaces. So if you do the next time you do it, let's say you do a popcorn and skip 2 and then popcorn. So you can play around with it, with the spacing. You also don't have to do a row of double crochets in between your rows of popcorns. You could do a row of singles. You can even do a row of slip stitches if you wanted your popcorns real close. Another thing that you could do, let's say I did a row of single crochets, and when I came back, I did this alternating, but I changed it up. Instead of this row, I started with a double crochet and then did a popcorn. Obviously, the next row would have to be a regular stitch because it's got a right and a wrong side. So the very next row would be single crochets. The following row, which would be the right side of your fabric, which is this, I could do a popcorn, a double crochet, a popcorn, and then the popcorns. Hey there, Citric for Blue. How are you? Your popcorns can be nestled into each other. That's what I'm going to show you right now. So this next row that I'm going to do, I'm going to chain 1 and just do a row of singles. And I have 10 stitches, so that's 1, 2, and again, I'm going into the popcorn, and then I'm going into the standalone double. just like you normally would. You kind of, it's not that you kind of, you treat the popcorn, the popcorn is one stitch, just like a bauble or a puff. It's one stitch. The top has one point where it's anchored. So I did a row of singles, and now the next row will be a row of popcorn. So I've chained up 3 and turned my work. Not the row we just did, but the previous row we started with a double. This time we're going to start with a popcorn. 3, 4, and 5. So for, wait, what? So for pie, that how you would normally do as a row of popcorn, a row of singles, or a popcorn. It all depends on your pattern. You could do that. Alternating rows. So the corns are all on, yeah, the corns are going to be all, the popcorns are going to be all on one side, because again, with the popcorn, this is a popcorn here. Well, if I flip it over, it's flat. It's actually concave. I can put my finger in the popcorn. Like it creates a little bowl. So you're not going to have that texture on the back side. So to be really good for a blanket, if you don't want that texture against your skin, if you want the side that's going to be against you, or it will be flat, and the outside will be textured. So you could do whatever stitch you want in between the alternating row. I'm just showing, like here, this I did double crochets. That's a big space. Also, this yarn, it's not a very fluffy, bulky yarn. So it's going to show the spaces a little better. But this one, I did a row of singles. Like I said, you could do slip stitches. I would look at patterns that use popcorns as a design motif, like a shape, a letter, a Mickey Mouse head, that type of thing, and see what they use as the alternating row between the popcorns. If you want them closer together, do a single, do a slip stitch. So I'm going to go in the very first one. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not going to go into the turning chain. I'm going to go into the actual one. In this case, in my case, the turning chain does not count as a stitch. Again, follow your pattern. If you're working from a pattern, I would recommend that if you're beginning, and you can always make your own pattern. So I started, and it's every other row. So the first row of popcorns was a double, then a popcorn, a double, then a popcorn. The next row would be our singles. So that's our wrong side row. And now the next row, because we're going to alternate, I did a popcorn, and now the next stitch is a double. So I'm just switching it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pull the loop big, count back 5, or I know I did 1 here, so I'm going to skip that 1, and then the next one, go in, grab the loop, pull it through, pull it tight, chain to lock. And I'm just going to continue that pattern. That was our single double crochet. And now we're going to do our popcorn. And again, your popcorn starts with a fan. That was 4, and now here's the 5th one. And in my case, I'm skipping that first one I did, because that's our filler stitch. Bring it through and lock it. We do a double crochet, or filler stitch in between, do our popcorn. Do that again. Going. You've got a couple more stitches left to finish the row. 2, 3, okay. Now I've got a double crochet there. Oh, wait a minute. I'm just trying to find where my stitch is. So I have turning chains and I got all this other stuff. Okay, we're going to end with a double crochet. Yeah, we ended with a double crochet because we started with a popcorn in this row. Okay. So these two rows, they're separated by a row of singles, but they're alternating popcorns, and you can fluff them up, and you can kind of see that straight ahead, there's a space from this popcorn to here because they're alternating. They're nestled into each other. If you did a row of slip stitches, these rows would obviously be closer together because slip stitches are shorter than a single crochet. So that's the popcorn stitch. And with my sample here with the puffs and the bobbles and the popcorns and everything, I've kind of made like a relief mat because there's like different heights and widths, and so it's very, very, very textured. Does front post popcorn work? I don't see why it wouldn't, because all of these stitches, the puffs, the bobbles, and the popcorns, the multiple stitches all have the same starting point and the same ending point. So you could do, actually, you know what? That's a good question. I will do a few stitches. I'm not going to do a full row. I will do a few stitches of double crochet just so we have something to stitch into. 2, 3, 4. We'll do about half a row. Okay, and I'm just going to chain and turn, so ignore the rest of that. 3 and turn. And what we're going to do is we will do a front post popcorn. So we're going to, instead of going to the stitch, we're going to do everything under that post. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go. Yeah, that was our we're going to ignore our turning chain. And we're going to bring this that. No, I don't think it will work because your popcorn will be actually on sideways, because everything's going to be going into that front post, and it's going to twist everything to the side. Because here, that's the top of. Before I say no, I finish the popcorn and let me just do a stitch next to it. So I did a double crochet next to it. I mean, it could work. Your popcorns aren't laying flat like this. That right there is the back side of the popcorn. And this side here is the front side. So instead of horizontal, they've gone vertical. I mean, I mean, it'll work. It's physically possible, but I don't know if that's. I mean, yeah, that would definitely for scales if you wanted that. It is taller. It's the same popcorn I did here, but since it's turned on end, it is going to be taller. But that's the beauty with crochet. Try out a stitch, see if something works differently, or make it and then join it a different way. So let's try this. So I'm going to take out that double crochet there. I'm going to keep my popcorn. So I'm going to keep my popcorn, and what I'm going to do is I've got our front post popcorn. Okay, Claymiko, catch you later. We got our front post popcorn, and now I'm going to do a front post double crochet next to it. It probably isn't going to affect anything. No, it won't. But yeah, it will definitely add a lot of texture. So that's the popcorn stitch. Try it out, practice with it, see what type of cool textures and designs you can come up with. Now we're going to transfer over and do the Picot stitch. Picot stitch are really, really easy. You find the picots a lot in borders and edges. You can also find them in the middle of a row too. They're a flat stitch, so they're not going to have height like a popcorn or a puff or a bobble, but they will add dimension and texture to the edge of a piece or in the middle of a row. So I just got a sample of a couple rows of single crochet, and I'm going to chain one and turn. So in the next stitch, I'm going to do a single crochet. That's not a picot, that's just a regular single. And in the very next stitch, you gotta remember how to do it. I've done it many times. Okay, yeah, that's what you do. So we did our single crochet, so it's not in the next stitch. We did a single crochet, and now we're going to chain 3, and then in the first chain we made, slip stitch into that. Actually, insert the hook into it, and then bring up a loop and slip stitch it shut. And then the next stitch, I'm going to do a single crochet. And then in the very next one, I'm going to alternate this. So the first one we did a picot. I'll show that again. The first one we did a single crochet, a picot, and then the next stitch a single crochet. The third stitch we do a single crochet, and now we're going to do the picot. So we're going to chain up 3, the third chain from the hook. So the first one, insert the hook, bring up a loop, and then slip stitch that loop through the one that's on your hook. And then in the next stitch, we'll just do a single just to anchor it. So what I made there, these little points, are just simple little picots. You can get a little more creative with it. In the next stitch, I'm going to do a single crochet. And now I'm going to chain up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I will finish this when we get back from an ad. So we will be right back because it's going to start any second now. Okay. I think there might be, the ad might still be going on. I'll wait a couple more seconds. Okay, I think we're back. I clicked the thing a little too soon. So, the first two picots we did 3 chains. This one we're going to do 5. We're going to make a bigger picot. You can do as many chains as you want. Usually it's 3, sometimes 4 or 5. Commonly it's 3. So I did 5. And you're going to go to the very first chain, so it's the 5th chain from the hook, and insert into that chain, slip stitch, and then in the very next stitch, we'll do whatever stitch, I'm just going to do singles. And that kind of anchors it. And then in the next one, we're going to do a single, 3, 4, 5. We've chained a number of chains. We did 5 this time. In the very first chain that we made, basically do a slip stitch, and in the next stitch of our fabric, do whatever. If you're doing a double, do a double. I just happen to be doing singles. So these are traditional picots, are usually 3. These picots here are 5. Now when you slip, you're not going to be able to really see it on, move my yarn. You're not going to really see it on the smaller ones, but on these larger ones, you'll probably be able to see it. When you did the chain and you slip stitch, you're actually forming a little hole there. So depending on what your project is, sometimes it might be possible to stitch into those holes, but I don't see the point of doing that because these are the decorative little embellishments you're making. But what I'm going to show you here, I'm just going to do, the rest are going to be double single crochets, and I'm going to turn. And what I'm going to do in this next stitch, you could do it just like this as an edge, but I have seen ones, actually, I'm going to chain 2 more. We're going to do some doubles here. Yeah, you could put beads on it. Yeah, definitely. You can string your beads beforehand, and then slide it down onto whatever. Let's say you're going to do 5 chains for a picot. On your 3rd chain, slide the bead down and then finish your chains, and then finish your picot, and then your bead will be there. But I've also seen some patterns where you got a row and you've got some picots, and then the next row have some taller stitches. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1, actually I'm going to chain 2, and the space in between the picots, we're going to do another double there. And now I'm going to chain 2, and then in between the picots, we'll do a double, and so on. But if you do this, if it would lay flat, you got your rows here, but you got stitches in between, but they kind of frame the picots. There's a lot of lacy patterns and doilies and all different types of different types of objects that you don't stitch into it. You leave it there, you just stitch around it. So it'll add a little detail to it. So that's all a picot is. Picot is a number of chains, and then you slip stitch into the very first chain. There are other ways to finish a picot. If you can't get into that first chain, you can do a single crochet. I've never actually done it. I've seen some videos on how to do it. 1, 2, 3. And I think what they do is they skip all of the chains and they go into the stitch itself. and somehow do a single crochet or do some type of stitch. Again, it's just basically you're making a length of chains and then anchoring it, and it makes a loop. That's all a picot is. So that's our basic stitches for tonight, was the popcorns and the picots. The picots didn't took no time to make. We are probably, oh, that is not what I wanted to do. We are, let me check something here. I think we're going to call it a night for tonight, but before we go, I will raid somebody. For Thursday's stream, we're doing a little more complex stitches that you're not going to see in a lot of patterns, but they will be used from time to time. We're doing the bullion stitch, the loop stitch, and the Solomon's knot stitch. For anybody who would want to crochet along with those stitches, if you're going to do the bullion stitch, I recommend getting, or if you have a Tunisian hook, I will show you how to do it with a Tunisian hook. It's very difficult to do it with a regular crochet hook. It's possible, but it can be very difficult. But what will make it even easier if you have a latch hook to do the bullion stitch, because there'll be a lot of wrapping and a lot of loops that you have to pull it through. So I will show how to do it with a Tunisian hook and how to do it with the latch hook. The latch hook is the easiest way to go. And then the loop stitch and the Solomon's knot, they're not as complicated. There's just a little more thing you have to turn and to make with the traditional crochet hook. So we're going to find somebody to raid. I think I have somebody. We're going to go raid Drooby Zoo. I don't know what exactly he's making, because I have his stream muted, because if I don't have it muted, you'd end up hearing him through my stream. He's crocheting at something he just started. We will be here on my stream Thursday night at 8. Again, like I said, for the bullion stitch, the loop stitch, and the Solomon's knot. And I guess, wait, I didn't do that right. There we go. So I will chat with everybody Thursday night. Everybody have a good evening and happy crafting. And if you want, stick around for the raid.